And now, the best 60-ish seconds of your week.
And as we've all gone through weeks of social distancing, under virtual house arrest, and being remote from many of our friends, family, and loved ones, getting back together has become a big deal. And even though some of you don't like us to mix up sports with politics on the best 60 seconds, sports has always been a great unifier. And so the news this week was largely about the NFL draft. Now, it wasn't in Vegas and wasn't the extravaganza that we've come to expect from the NFL draft, but it at least gave us something to be a little bit excited about and something to look forward to, as we're all very hopeful that the NFL season will come off as planned. Looked at from the basement of Roger Goodell's house rather than an extravagant operation in Vegas. But when you think about what the NFL draft represents, there are roughly 1.2 million kids playing high school football in America right now. Less than 7.5% of those will go on to play NCAA football at any level, Division I, II, or III. And of those roughly 75,000 college athletes, only 250 get drafted. Think about that, and the tremendous opportunity that it represents. So as Jerry Jones watched from his $250 million yacht, and the rest of us from our living rooms, Roger Goodell in the basement of his house let out the results to great acclaim. There wasn't a lot of technical glitch or anything else to it. Came off relatively smoothly, although Gruden's graph board showed a couple of times. And it's interesting to note, for those of you that have an interest in politics, that Roger Goodell comes from a very, very significant American political family. His father, Charles Goodell, was a United States Senator from New York, who, interestingly, lost to a third-party candidate. One of the few times in American history that that's occurred. James Buckley, who's still living, the brother of William F. Buckley, a great conservative, a great jurist after his service in the Senate, beat Goodell in a three-way race for the U.S. Senate back in 1970. So there's a little footnote for you all. But the NFL draft went off. No surprise that Joe Burrow was the number one draft pick after one of the great college seasons. And relatively few surprises throughout the first round, but they always say the next play is the most important, so rounds 2, 3, etc. yet to come. And in business news, the market took its first losing week in several. And oil, did you happen to see what happened in the oil futures market early in the week? Producers were actually paying purchasers to take oil off their hands, up to $36 a barrel. For crying out loud, unheard of for nearly 50 years in our history. And a good time for the United States to replenish the strategic oil reserve, add to it for a rainy day, and to take advantage of what in other sectors of the economy is causing some problems. The jobless numbers this week, not good, 4.4 million. And they're likely to increase as we emerge from all of the lockdowns and economic shutdowns of the Wuhan flu situation. Let's pray that America and each of the states gets back to work as soon as possible. And two other quick things. You're seeing major companies now paying back the PPP loans that they got, most notably Ruth's Chris, that got $20 million, and some other major companies looking at the same. And finally, we talked about stock repurchase or buyback some time ago as being a significant issue this year. We'll talk more about that next week, but stay tuned. There's more to come on that front. And finally, China's culpability in all of this Wuhan flu mess is increasingly being discussed. Major companies talking about moving out of or moving away from Wuhan at least, but out of China. An awful lot of the international community saying, what did they do? What did they know? Etc. Because it's very obvious that we've been lied to consistently and constantly by the Chinese Communist government. And one issue that I think is going to be extremely significant, we've talked about Huawei and the G5, keep your eye on that one, but also now look at the chemicals necessary to produce pharmaceuticals, the APIs as they are known. China has a virtual monopoly on those vital ingredients. The world is going to have to look at that situation and how we get back to a situation where we are not so overly dependent on China and the communist oppressive regime that rules there. But for now, Be hopeful, stay well, take care of each other, because that is the best 60-ish seconds of your week.